Professor Ting, let me take you back to the two questions you asked and ask you for the answers to your questions, if I might. The first was why are our borders still as open as they are? 3 points here, if you wouldn't mind commenting on that. Do you get the sense that there is a distinction between the resources and the manpower that we devote to guarding the southern borders of the United States, along the Mexican border, for example, as opposed to the resources we employ in guarding the northern border of the United States, our border with Canada? And is this a matter of policy? Is it a matter of money? And does this have implications for the ability of terrorists, for example, to cross one border more easily than the other? The second is, do you have the sense that the national security implications of border control policy have been subordinated to, let's say, drug control policy, that we're more concerned about people bringing in drugs to the country than we are about people entering the country and doing something here? And if so, is that a wrong-headed use of our resources?
Well, thank you, Commissioner. I think it's important to note that historically, Americans have always felt ambivalent about immigration law enforcement and border enforcement. I mean, obviously, we're all descendants of immigrants. We all pay tribute to our immigrant ancestors and the struggles that they went through and the hardships that they experienced. We're a nation of immigrants, and we're all proud of that. But the reality is we are not willing to take everybody in the world who would like to come to the United States, and that means you have to have a system of law enforcement so that the people who are not chosen get removed. Now, why are our borders so, just to respond to your question, I mean, obviously there's a disproportionate allocation of resources, and there always has been, to our southern border rather than our northern border. But as somebody who grew up along the northern border, I can attest that that border presents the same sort of issues that we have on the southern border. The border is largely wide open, and indeed every night, every day of the year, people cross over from Canada into the United States, and we have no idea who they are. Is it a question of resources? Well, of course it's a question of resources, but it's mainly a problem of political will. There's basically a lack of political will in this country to enforce our borders for a variety of reasons. Business interests want the borders open, and I think electoral considerations come into play, or the perceptions of tightening up the border and the electoral implications of that. But, you know, why are, this has just occurred to me, why are military bases allocated in the United States according to whose district is in the hands of a powerful member of Congress or a chairman of a committee? Why are bases allocated that way rather than in a way that makes sense for national security considerations? Why aren't they positioned more along our borders where they can add to our national security in that regard? No one can argue that drug enforcement is a serious national priority, but I think in the context after 9/11, we all ought to understand that immigration law enforcement and border security is part of our national security concern also.